So what is Tales from Paradise Heights? It's a series of stories from a community that I've created called Paradise Heights. It's a series of stories that are individual. You can watch any one of them, jump on at any point with any of the stories and not feel that you've missed anything. But it's also a story that if you watch more than one of them, you start to see the connections, the links between the others. The stories that are linked by incident, character, or location. It was set in 2007, because that's the year that I wrote it. So there'll be probably quite a few references in it to that time. The idea of writing that story came from, I worked for community service, and I was working with a group one Sunday, and we were putting a bench into a graveyard. And I just thought, I wonder how many people are going to sit here, what they would talk about, etc. And I thought, whoa, hang on a minute, that's an idea for a play. So I started writing this play, and I thought it would be a perfect vehicle to introduce a further 12 to 16 characters into Paradise Heights as a community, with a view to visiting each of those characters in future stories. A bit like the way Stephen King writes things. He writes in Maine, Bangor in Maine, a community that he's created, where I thought I'll create a fictional area, town, estate. But again, I'd come back and visit all these different characters, etc., etc. Oh, that's a good question. What makes things different about my work? Well, this particular estate, I mean, the bench itself isn't set in a graveyard. It's set in a public park. So the difference there is you get quite an eclectic mix of people coming through it, and you get to see the park at different times of day. You see it in the morning, you see it in the afternoon, you see it at night, and you see the way the character of the place changes. What first starts out as a series of separate vignettes, if you like, separate stories, slowly starts to mingle and become quite an intricate plot. I mean, we see the bench. The play itself was 12 scenes, 12 months of the year, January through to December. I also wanted to create a really intriguing plot out of that. But what also makes it different is there's quite a strong thread of the supernatural through these stories, which was a gamble, because I wasn't sure whether audiences would go for that kind of thing. Now, obviously, the lifeblood of the play is the characters, and there's a whole range of them here, quite a real eclectic mix that you'd find on any council estate. This is a council estate story, but I think the difference here is the supernatural element, where we have an angel and a ghost among those characters. And I was saying earlier, it was a gamble bringing these two characters in there, and I really wasn't sure if the audience were going to go for this. But the angel and the ghost, there's a strong reason for them being there, and that'll become obvious from seeing the show. And again, I don't want to give anything away here, but there is a real strong love relationship between these two characters. The audience loved them to such an extent that the next two plays are raw, featured at some point, either heavily or fleetingly. These characters, I wanted to tell more stories about them that again resonated with the audience. There's Shirley, the angel, and Corny Pitbull McGeehan, who used to be a boxer when he was alive, died in the community, wasn't ready to move on, and so consequently he stayed around, and she pops in to see how he's doing, and you know, all that sort of stuff. I mean, we've got the pensioners, two World War II soldiers who've known each other 60 odd years, and that comes across. Audiences love these two guys. There's a pair of burglars in it. There's a street cleaning guy. There's a widow who's suffering extreme agoraphobia, who's finally got all the way down to the park today. So yeah, a whole range of characters there, who are all in one way or another dealing with some major life issues, big life issues. So yeah, I want to touch on issues as well that these characters are dealing with in this real world, and I don't shy away from them. I'll go in and I'll tackle them head on. I mean, we're talking areas like homelessness, addiction, grief, abuse. These are heavy subjects, and I don't treat them lightly. But there's also a great deal of heart, soul, and humanity around this. There are some surprises in there, of course there are, but there's an acute control of mood, atmosphere, and above all, it's a comedy. There's a lot of comedy going on here. Right from the off, we've got the audience rolling in the aisles, and that reoccurs regularly throughout the play. I don't believe in just grabbing an audience by the throat. You've got to give them release, and you will be laughing with your mates in the audience watching this, but you'll also feel it's a human story, a solid human story, and I'm delighted that it's coming back now. Now's the time for it to come back, if ever there was one. When I wrote this in 2007, there were some particularly bad things going on at the time. If you'd have told me back then that things were going to become as bad as they are now, I'd have just said no way, that couldn't possibly happen. But in fairness, they're a whole lot worse. A community that is ruled over by one resident bad guy, a guy known as a loan shark. He's a racketeer, he's a gangster, he's an enforcer, a sociopath, a gambler. He owns one of the clubs in the area, the Ace of Spades. A guy called Frank Morgan, who, if he doesn't appear in the story, he's referred to. You feel his presence, and he will pop up in The Bench, A Tale from Paradise Heights. But I remember talking a few years ago about potentially killing the character off, and the response I got from the community that had seen these stories was, no, you can't kill Frank off. You can't kill a good bad guy. You can't do that. So he's still around, but he's going to have his day of reckoning. That is going to come. But yeah, look out for Frank Morgan. I'll say no more than that. This is about people. It's about community. It's about a place where actions have consequences. But above all, it's a story of where no matter how much decay there is in the walls where these people live, they are, as I said before, they're held together by heart, soul, humanity and humour, and that's what makes us all tick. And I think that's another reason why this play has been so incredibly popular, and this series of stories has been popular.